you got to pay attention to what you're feeding yourself. Not just your physical food going into your mouth, but what do you feed your head? A lot of people like to ignore that part. What goes into their heads? With the advent of the internet, we have access to just about anything. I'm a few button presses away from seeing a couple people do the dirty dance, or I'm a couple clicks away from someone dying. On YouTube, there's this one video of a police officer walking up on this guy who's lighting stuff on fire, kind of just acting crazy, right? And, he walks up, he gets a little too comfortable, right? And this man pulls out a knife, and as the officer sees the knife, he goes, "Oh shit," and he turns around to run, and he trips. And if you were unlucky enough to stumble across this video, which you can find on YouTube, I'm not going to give you links or anything, you will be subject to the first-person perspective of a man getting stabbed to death. You'll be subject to that as he's screaming and yelling at the guy to stop and then just being cut out completely. That's allowed on YouTube. You can just find that. I'm sure a lot of you remember what happened when Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck, and all these social media sites that claim to say, "Oh, we take pride in protecting the people from this explicit content or anything. If you swear on the video in the first 5 seconds, you get demonetized." These lies. They're lies. You remember what happened. Didn't matter if you were on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, wherever. You saw that man get shot in the neck and die. Basic social media sites. And it goes to show just how important it is. Just how important it is to realize what you're feeding your mind. We are in the information age. I like to think of myself as a nutritional, good habits, exercise kind of YouTuber. The brain is one of the most important muscles and organs in your body. And just like everything else, you got to give it the proper attention, right? Even if it's not horrible shit like that. You could find yourself in a comment section. You could find yourself talking to bots or 14-year-olds, people who you don't know. Even worse, you could leave a comment and you could find yourself getting reprimanded by 8 to 10 people. And your subconscious does not know the difference between a bunch of comments in a comment section and an actual angry mob at your doorstep. Our minds aren't exactly made for this reality we created. We're not exactly prepared. We're not exactly prepared to deal with hearing so many opinions and hearing so many tragic things happening in the world. Maybe 1 or 2 tragic things happen in your town, right? Generally speaking, those should be the only 2 tragic things that you hear. We're not so different from our ancestors, in the sense that we don't really have the brains to process all this properly and in a healthy way. We find ourselves doom scrolling, and we find ourselves lurking in comment sections, going through reel after reel after reel. Here's one thing, here's the next thing, Here's the next thing. Oh, this thing's boring. Here's the next thing. Here's this tragic thing. Here's these people dying. And now your subconscious, now your nervous system is taking this in as if you're right there watching it. And your village is getting destroyed. And your people are getting oppressed. And your life is getting uprooted by invading forces or drone strikes from the sky. Whatever's going on in the world. You must be mindful of what you feed your mind. Reading books is one of the best habits you can pick up. It's like a little meditation, right? Because it's so much harder to pay attention to than those carefully curated social media platforms. So much tougher. But the juice is worth the squeeze. Not only do you heal yourself from the symptoms of frequent social media use and chronic online behavior, you just get better information. Someone who can post to a social media site, most of the time they're not going to have the levels of insight that an actual author has. Even if you're reading nonfiction, even if you're reading some smut, you are much better off than scrolling social media. Even if you're reading dirty things, pornographic stories, even then, it's much better, much better than being on Instagram, being on TikTok, being on YouTube Shorts. There's a strange comfort to those apps, though. There's a strange familiarity to it. It's like you feel what it's doing to your head, but you don't want to stop. Because any step outside of it, and you're not being pulled, you know? Imagine if good habits had a pulling force to them, like these social media apps. You're like water. You take the path of least resistance when you go on social media. You fall into it. You gotta find the fire inside you. Fire can rise out of those social media apps. Rise out of that comfort. Rise out of that endless slop, quite frankly. It's one of those things that everyone knows, but hey, I may have told it to you in a way that helped you get out. I hope so. Now get off YouTube, capiche? Bye.